Have you ever wondered what really happens inside someone's mind after they betray you? Not the moment it happens, not the excuses they make afterward, but the quiet psychological shift that begins once they realize something unexpected. Because betrayal usually comes with an assumption. The assumption that you'll break, that you'll chase them, confront them, beg for explanations, demand closure. Most people who betray someone believe they already know the ending of the story. They think they understand your emotional script: pain, anger, desperation, maybe revenge. But sometimes the ending unfolds very differently. And that's where things become psychologically fascinating. Before we go any deeper, it's important to clarify something. This conversation isn't about encouraging manipulation, revenge, or emotional games. Betrayal is painful, and relationships involve real human vulnerability. The goal here is awareness, understanding how people think, how emotions shape behavior, and how psychology quietly influences what happens after trust is broken. When we understand these patterns, we gain clarity, not power over others, but power over ourselves. Because betrayal rarely begins with cruelty alone. In many cases, it begins with something more complicated: unmet emotional needs, a search for validation, the thrill of novelty, sometimes even insecurity hiding beneath confidence. Human beings are wired for connection, attention, and significance. When those needs feel ignored or unfulfilled, the brain starts seeking stimulation elsewhere. This doesn't justify betrayal, but it does explain why it happens so often. Attachment psychology tells us something important here. People who struggle with emotional stability often chase external validation to regulate their self-worth. Attention becomes a temporary solution to internal discomfort. And here's where it gets interesting. When someone betrays you, they often expect a predictable emotional reaction. Your response becomes part of their psychological feedback loop. If you react intensely, it reassures their importance in your emotional world. But if your response breaks that expectation, the entire psychological dynamic shifts. Have you ever noticed how someone behaves when they expect anger but receive calm instead? There's usually a pause, a subtle shift in eye contact, a moment where their confidence hesitates. This is subtle but powerful. Pay attention to micro behaviors. When someone knows they've done something wrong, their body often reveals tension long before their words do. Their breathing changes slightly during difficult conversations. Their voice may become overly controlled, almost rehearsed. Sometimes they avoid direct eye contact for just a fraction longer than usual. But here's where most people get it wrong. Not every nervous behavior signals guilt. Context matters. A person who simply feels misunderstood may display similar stress signals. The real psychological clues come from patterns, not single moments. For example, observe contrast behavior. How someone interacts with you in private versus in public settings can reveal internal conflict. In a group environment, they may act distant or neutral, but in private conversations, their tone softens, their posture becomes less guarded, their attention suddenly becomes more focused. Why does this happen? Because guilt and attachment can exist simultaneously. The human brain is surprisingly capable of holding contradictory emotions at the same time. Someone can feel remorse while still craving the emotional connection they disrupted. And that tension often creates mixed signals. One day they seem distant. The next day they reach out unexpectedly. Conversations fluctuate between warmth and emotional distance. This push-pull dynamic isn't random. It's the mind attempting to reduce internal discomfort. Guilt pushes them away. Familiar emotional attachment pulls them back. Now consider another subtle scenario: texting behavior versus in-person interaction. In digital communication, people have time to carefully control their responses. Words become edited, emotions become filtered. But in person, the brain processes emotional stimuli in real time.
Pauses appear. Tone slightly shifts. Eye contact becomes difficult to maintain. These small inconsistencies often reveal more than long explanations. And here's something many people overlook. What happens when another person enters the room? Watch how quickly their body orientation changes. Do they subtly step away? Do their facial expressions reset? Do they suddenly become quieter? These micro-adjustments are rarely conscious. They are protective instincts triggered by social awareness. But ultimately, the most important part of this entire discussion has nothing to do with decoding someone else's behavior. It has everything to do with your own integrity. Because betrayal tests something deeper than trust. It tests identity. Who you choose to become after someone hurts you matters more than the betrayal itself. Some people allow bitterness to reshape their personality. Others develop emotional awareness, stronger boundaries, and a deeper understanding of human behavior. This is where emotional maturity becomes powerful. Not silence, not suppression, but clarity. Recognizing when someone's actions reveal misaligned values. Accepting that respect and commitment cannot be forced. And understanding that walking away with dignity often communicates more strength than confrontation ever could. Betrayal changes relationships, but it can also sharpen self-awareness. When you stop reacting impulsively and begin observing patterns, you start seeing people more clearly. Their motivations, their insecurities, their emotional contradictions. And sometimes, the most unexpected ending isn't revenge or reconciliation. It's growth. The moment you realize that your peace no longer depends on someone who once underestimated your strength. If you found this perspective valuable, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for more deep psychological insights into human behavior and relationships.